Nancy Pelosi. Is she on coke or meth? It's not that far-fetched, and this video will make you think so. It starts with asking, what the hell is going on with Nancy's mouth? Let's take a look at her in action right away.
Or collateral damage to stopping the spread of the coronavirus. Now, let me just get back to testing. So very important to take inventory, to understand the epidemiological the spread of the virus, and also the epidemiological the spread of the virus, and also.
Everyone seems to assume that she's playing with her dentures, but I'm not so sure. While I don't have absolute proof, from my experience, I see clear signs that she is using some form of strong stimulant. Could be cocaine, and while we often associate this with Tony Montana, it is well known that coke is used extensively among the political elite. Or maybe she is taking methamphetamine, or another form of amphetamine. You'll be amazed at the extensive use of these drugs, but I'll talk about that later. She may even simply be taking large doses of Adderall, or maybe Ritalin. You probably know how widespread they are used today. While Adderall and Ritalin have some chemical properties in common with methamphetamine, they are generally considered safer. However, their use can lead to addiction. The use of prescription stimulants, notably Adderall, has climbed in recent years, so that adults in the ages of 20 to 39 receive roughly 16 million Adderall prescriptions a year. And if she is addicted, as Speaker of the House, third in line to the presidency, that should scare you. If there is any place her bizarre behavior and possible substance abuse stands out, it is during a recent interview with Wolf Blitzer. We will look at parts of that later on. During her interview, Nancy's jaw cannot stop moving, and non-stop erratic talking is on full display. If you ask me, that was her, and why am I not 50 points ahead moment that Hillary gave us, and that moment is still so memorable. Think it's preposterous? Remember this guy? Oh, you don't recognize him. It's Max Jacobson, a.k.a. the real Dr. Feelgood. If you don't know who he is, get ready for a history lesson that'll blow your mind. He brought methamphetamine to hundreds of the highest profile people, even in politics. Let me just tell you, I'm from Vancouver, Canada, a place where you see lots of rampant drug use. Vancouver is Canada's West Coast gem, if you can call it that. It has the same drug problems as San Francisco, if not worse. A local saying has always been that in Vancouver, you can get blow faster than a pizza. Our drugs are readily available, and their use at parties and clubs is completely open. It is very common for functional and aka normal people to use blow on weekends and maybe even to help out with work every now and then. In fact, the use of meth and heroin in Vancouver is rampant. We even have government-sponsored centers to shoot up in. People just openly use on the street without concern while people just calmly walk by doing their usual routines. Meth on the street just outside multi-million-dollar condos. Being Canada's major West Coast port, it is also the entrance point for large amounts of drugs which then make their way across Canada. So what I'm essentially trying to say is, I've seen a lot of meth heads. What causes strange mouth movements when on cocaine? Strange mouth movements by users of cocaine and other stimulants can be caused by a number of its physical and mental effects, notably those related to facial muscular tension, teeth grinding, jaw clenching, dry mouth, lip chewing, and psychological effects, including reduced awareness of facial appearance. Of course, this also includes incessant talking, including an incapacity to just listen. Rapid jaw movements is another sign. Jaw locking or teeth clenching, tremors, red eyes are also indicators. I argue that these jaw movements have to be involuntary. Otherwise, she should be able to develop the discipline to stop playing with her dentures. Let's take a look at a compilation of Nancy Pelosi, which was featured on the Ingram Angle, a great show on the Fox channel.
Watch this exchange. It tells us a lot.
Open the government. Thank you. Leader Schumer?
Now, look what she does with her jaw. She does this strange jaw readjustment thing.
God.
Audiences, look, they were wondering, why am I kind of thrown off by this?
Hood thing. It might be about his manhood.
Nancy Pelosi. Leader Pelosi, what's the reality? News has a story about all the Democrats who are running about the same age. Do you think that the reason why...
Madam Leader, is there any circumstance that there seem to be some discussions ongoing on the floor of the House, right? Funding, is there any situation you think Democrats could support?
Feeling the heat. It is not helping the president. It is not helping the Republicans to be the owners of this shutdown.
There are at least 17 members who have signed a letter saying they will not support you on the floor.
Have you seen the letter?
I've not seen them willing to vote no. You've expressed total confidence.
Is there anyone else in your conference?
I know this is hard to imagine with Nancy being 80 years old, but the use of cocaine has been around for hundreds of years. Early in the 20th century, cocaine could be bought at a local pharmacy store. Toothache? Hey, take some drops of cocaine. And yes, the original Coca-Cola contained cocaine for the instant great pick-me-up. Coca? Get it? But let's take a look at methamphetamine. Of course, I'm not talking about smoking a crystal meth pipe like Hunter Biden. What do you mean, you might ask? Let me explain. A Japanese chemist first synthesized methamphetamine back in 1893. Methamphetamine was used early on as a medical treatment for narcolepsy, asthma, and as a weight loss drug. It wasn't outlawed in the United States until 1970. Methamphetamine, however, was difficult to make until 1919, when another Japanese chemist, Akira Ogata, streamlined the process, creating the world's first crystal meth. In their early history, methamphetamines were used to lose weight. Stay fit and slim by taking amphetamine. Feel like losing some weight? Try Clarkotabs. What a crazy name. Let's come back to Max Jacobson. He was a German physician and medical researcher who treated numerous high-profile clients in America. Jacobson became known as Dr. Feelgood because he administered highly addictive vitamin shots laced with substances like amphetamine and methamphetamine. He practiced for decades in the United States until the early 1970s. Don't think that high-profile people could be using methamphetamine? Jacobson's client list was unbelievably extensive, including many high-profile people you would never have thought had used amphetamines. Here's a few names you might recognize. Cecil B. DeVille, Betty Davis, Andy Warhol, Anthony Quinn, Judy Garland, Howard Cosell, Marilyn Dietrich, Marilyn Monroe, Nelson Rockefeller, writer Tennessee Williams, Truman Capote, Yul Brynner, and even Elvis Presley, the king himself. Meth in different forms was available early in the 20th century. These German pills were used extensively with German troops during World War II. And Jacobson's formula was given to Hitler's doctor who administered it to the Fuhrer himself. Winston Churchill was also provided with amphetamine help from his physician who obtained much of his knowledge from Jacobson. American troops have had access to forms of amphetamines for decades to help with long missions and staying awake at critical times. Many books have been written on Jacobson's work and the people he has affected. His highest profile client was President John F. Kennedy. Incredible, isn't it? John F. Kennedy used Dr. Feelgood's services for years. While it is well known that President Kennedy suffered from excruciating back pain, the use of Jacobson's treatment made the president addicted to his formula and, of course, methamphetamine. He depended on it so much that he hired Dr. Jacobson to travel with him full-time. Perhaps most famously, Jacobson traveled with President Kennedy to his historic meeting with Leonid Brezhnev, and it is widely believed that President Kennedy was high as a kite during the meeting. Jacobson had hundreds, if not thousands, of clients. There are lots of stories about people's experiences with him. Meth and other amphetamines continued to be used well into the 20th century. Nancy would have been at the perfect time to experience all the different phases of its use. In the 50s and 60s, amphetamine use was widespread, often known as beanies, perfect for the clubs and dance halls of the time. In the 70s, cocaine really entered the scene, and its use exploded in the 1980s. In the 80s, it was cocaine that was rampant. Of course, when you first mention cocaine, people will generally think of Tony Montana. But the reality is people from all walks of life used it, with many people using cocaine on a daily basis in small doses for a little pick-me-up. Forget about coffee. Its rampant use on Wall Street is often highlighted in movies about that period. In the 1990s, crack and meth started hitting the streets hard. One of the highest profile people to expose for meth use was the mayor of Washington, Marion Barry. He was famously busted by the FBI in a hotel room for the use and possession of methamphetamine. Do you really think drug use by high-profile and powerful people went away? Of course not. And high-profile people are exposed for its use on a regular basis. Let's get back to Nancy, who certainly would have been surrounded by these drugs all her life. Remembering the effect of jaw clenching, dry mouth and lip smacking, uncontrollable facial tics, constant talking and confusion, and others, let's look at that Wolf Blitzer interview I mentioned earlier. I'm going to show just a few parts, but you need to watch the whole thing to truly get the scope of its insanity. In the first clip, early in the interview, she attacks Wolf for asking her a question. Out of nowhere, calling him an apologist for the Republican Party. What the hell? Clearly, CNN constantly attacks Trump and the Republicans, and is on the Democratic side. To me, she seems so hopped up, she gets aggressive for no reason at all.
What I say to you is, I don't know why you're always an apologist, and many of your colleagues apologists for the Republican position.
In the second clip, she is responding to Wolf's questions about what two other Democratic representatives had said. As you would expect from someone on meth, she goes full confrontational, simply saying they have no idea what they're talking about, but of course, calling them lovely people. Then she goes back to attacking Wolf. Also, watch Wolf's eyes throughout the whole interview. It's as if he knows something is going on, and he's just sitting back and letting her talk. No emotions, no expression.
Honest to God, you really, I can't get over it, because Andrew Yang, he's lovely. Ro Khanna, he's lovely. They are not negotiating this situation. They have no idea of the particulars. They have no idea of what the language is here. I didn't come over here to have, so you're the apologist for the Obama, excuse me, God forbid.
Madam Speaker,
Thank God for
I'm not an
Barack
apologist.
Obama.
The next clip will show how obnoxious and vain Nancy can be, suggesting she knows more about the people than Wolf because she was voted into office. Nancy has been a senator for so long, she has lived decades outside the normal lives of regular Americans. Again, continue to watch Wolf's eyes. They are deadpan and expressionless, as if he knows she's on something.
What makes me amused, if it weren't so sad, is how you all think that you know more about the suffering of the American people than those of us who are elected by them.
The next clip is confusing. Listen to Nancy babble, trying to explain numbers in her proposed stimulus bill. Her incoherence and confusion is sad to watch. Also watch the shaking and trembling with her hands. Of course, that is only when she can stop waving them around.
Now, let me just say this in terms of the numbers. I want people to do the math. We had 3.4, which would meet the needs of the American people for a sustained period of time, so that there was some certainty in what would happen. The Republicans said no, well, so we took it down $1 trillion by cutting the time. We took it down another $200 billion, so we're now $1.200 billion down. We came down to 2.2.
In clip 5, we'll see more of the same, but now she demands respect for how much knowledge her and her colleagues have. How dismissive to answer questions simply by saying, hey, I just know better. And truly, like someone who is strung out, or even a drunk for that matter, she turns on a dime at the end and becomes all happy. It's creepy.
You evidently do not respect the chairman of the committees who wrote these bills.
I respect
and
all
I
of
wish you would respect the knowledge that goes into getting meeting the needs of the American people. But again, you've been on a jag defending the administration all this time with no knowledge of the difference between our two bills, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to say that to you in person.
In the last clip, we'll see more lip smacking, and watch the end of the clip to see her repeating herself and talking over Wolf. Remember, these are just a few clips from a 13-minute interview. You really should watch the whole thing to see how crazy it is.
Now, we'll leave it on the vote that you are not right on this, Wolf, and I hate to say that to you, but I feel confident about it, and I feel confident about my colleagues, and I feel confidence in my chairs.
And it's not about me. It's about millions of Americans who can't put food on the table, who can't pay the rent.
And we represent them. And we represent them.
Getting
and
by
we represent
these
them.
long food
and
lines
we
that we're
represent
seeing.
them.
Well, I don't have absolute proof Nancy is on something. Clearly, there are signs that indicate all might not be right. At 80 years old, that's alarming. So don't forget the story of Max Jacobson. His story clearly shows how amphetamine usage can reach the highest positions of power. I don't think for a moment that it's just gone away. Amphetamines are used extensively today in all different forms, and methamphetamine is still available for prescription in pill form. So next time you see Nancy, consider the above, and ask yourself if you really think she's all there, or if she is in any condition to be a senator for another 6 years. Thanks for watching, and please share if you found this helpful. All the best, and take care.